Hello, BookTube. Hello, friends. Welcome to Lizziefaye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and this is going to be kind of a partial wrap-up of some of the books that I read in the month of August, or at least the books that I listened to. If you don't know, I started this little project at the end of July that I'm calling 60 by 60, and I earmarked a set of 65 books, actually, to give myself some alternates, with a goal to listen to at least 60 of them before my 60th birthday, which is on November 1st. So I have made some great headway in that list, and I have been getting a lot of them done. I'm over a third of the way done now. Right now, as I'm filming this, it is the last day of August, and I will film a full wrap-up of the whole month, but since my August wrap-up is going to be kind of long, because at this point I'm on track to finish about 45 books, I thought it would be good to go ahead and break it down a little bit and do a couple of themed videos that feature some of the books that I read or listened to during the month of August, and then I will of course do a whole summary of everything in my August wrap-up. But the biggest author, or the author with the most books in my list of 65 books, is Elizabeth Berg. And I have a lot of her books on my shelf because I just have been drawn in completely to the covers. Now, prior to this challenge, I had only read 2 of them, and I rated one 2 stars and one 3 stars. So I wasn't really going into this with high hopes. But I am happy to say that at least 2 of the books have come out with a 5-star rating from me, and a couple of 4 stars, and most 3 stars, and only one of the ones that I just read did I rate 2 stars. So Elizabeth Berg, for me, stretches the spectrum. No 1 stars yet, but you know, I haven't finished reading everything by her, but I thought it would be fun right now to just kind of do an author spotlight and chat a little bit about the books that I read during the month of August. And then I'll go ahead and mention the other 2 that I read previously, and the ones that I haven't gotten to yet. So I own, I believe, 14 books by Elizabeth Berg. Now, I have owned the 2 that I've already read, and I've already unhauled those. One of them was probably her most popular book because it was an Oprah book club selection called Open House. But I wrote in my review of that it wasn't my type of book, and it was kind of depressing. I went back just now today and looked at the description of it to just try to remember, because I remembered that there was a couple that either divorced or were splitting up or whatever, and that kind of happened in the beginning, I guess. And then the woman opened her house up to boarders, basically, people to come and live with her. And I remember just not really identifying with any of the characters, not really getting along with any of the characters, and I just didn't like the book. It just wasn't my type of book at all, and I gave it 2 stars. So then the other one I had read by her was called What We Keep, and it was about a woman who was on her way back to visit her estranged mother and confront her with some childhood issues. And I don't really remember what all the issues were, but that was the premise of the book. And I rated it 3 stars, which, you know, to me means that it was okay, but there were definitely things in it that I didn't care for. So now, fast forward to August of 2024, and what I did basically was go through all of my women's fiction books and a few other random titles last year sometime, and see which ones I could get on audio. And because Elizabeth Berg writes primarily women's fiction, it ended up that I had 10 books that I could get on digital audio, and then 2 books that I have not listened to yet, but I can get these on CD from my library. So these 2 I haven't gotten to yet. This one looks really interesting. The Last Time I Saw You, it's about some people at a 40-year class reunion. Well, my 40-year class anniversary was in 2022, and we didn't have a reunion. I'm hoping that we have one for at least for our 50th, but we haven't. So this one is called The Last Time I Saw You. And then this one is called Dream When You're Feeling Blue, and it's set during the World War II time, and it's about some women whose men have gone off to war, and about their life, I guess, during the war with, you know, being at home, and boyfriends and husbands and brothers and all of that are gone to the war. So it sounds interesting, and other than that, I don't know anything about it. I've got two others that I can't get on audio anywhere unless I buy them on Audible. Once Upon a Time, There Was You. I think this is about a couple who have been divorced and they have maybe come back together regarding their 18-year-old daughter. I don't know. And then this one is called Home Safe. It's about a recently widowed woman who is grieving and working her way through life after her husband has died. There are other books by Elizabeth Berg other than the ones I've shown you and the ones that I read this month. In fact, several of them are available on Hoopla, ones that I don't own, but I'm focusing right now on the ones that I own. So let me show these to you. Now, I'm going to start with the ones I like the best. That way, if you don't want to watch this whole video, you can at least see the ones that I like the best. And the reason I was able to get through so many of these, all of these but two were available to me only on Everand. Now, Everand usually cuts you off after 2 or 3 books, but I guess maybe because these are older books and they were all by the same author, every time I would finish one, then Everand would show me another one by her. And if every time it was one that was on my list. So I just kept clicking through. I never did like go back to my saved list or anything like that. I didn't want to do any kind of resets. I just kept going from one book to the next as they would offer it to me. And a lot of these books are shorter. She doesn't really write very chunky books, and listen to at 2 times speed. That's how I was able to get through quite a few of these really early on in the month. But I started with a trilogy called the Katie Nash Trilogy, and this could probably actually be classified as a YA series, although I'm almost 60 and I loved it. I thought it was great. I only rated the first 2 4 stars, but I rated the third one 5 stars. And really, overall, as a series, I would give it a 5 star as a series. The first one is called Durable Goods, and I was a little bit worried that it was going to be, about some kind of child abuse, because she talks about her gruff father and her overbearing father. It's about a 13-year-old girl, and I believe her mother has either died or has left. I'm not sure. I can't remember now which. Basically, all of Elizabeth Berg's books that I've read are about some kind of family drama. And so there's all kinds of different scenarios involved in these. So please forgive me if I get them a little mixed up. But anyway, Katie Nash was just a wonderful character. This whole series is kind of a coming of age story. It all kind of blended together and I just really enjoyed it. Her best friend is someone who is kind of a misfit like she is, and they kind of bond together, but then there is one point in one of the books where she sort of kind of takes her focus off of her best friend Cynthia and starts kind of hanging out with this girl who she thinks is really cool and everything. Well, this girl gets her into shoplifting and all this kind of stuff, and so that's not good. So there's just a lot of different things. In one of the books, I think it was number 2, Joy School, she falls through the ice on a lake, but somehow she's able to get out, but she's freezing cold, and she goes to the nearest building, which is some kind of a store or service station or something, and the young man working there is actually married, but he's young. He's like hasn't been married all that long, and she develops a crush on him, and she comes up with this whole scenario about how his wife must not care for him, and she just basically has this super crush on him, and finally it takes her seeing him with his wife in an embrace for her to finally realize, oh, she has just made this all up in her head. But she just goes through a lot of angsty things that young adolescents go through, and I just thought it was very well done. So Durable Goods is the first one, Joy School is the second one, and I'm sorry these are getting kind of washed out here, and number 3 is True to Form. So what I was worried about with the child abuse and everything was not what I thought it was going to be. The father actually does experience a lot of growth through the books, and his character I thought was very well done as well. So I enjoyed those a lot. Now, my next favorite, I also rated 5 stars. This is called The Art of Mending, and I love this cover. It's so good. In fact, I asked my sister if she had read this because I was going to give her this book with all the fabric on the front. She said yes, she had. This was about a woman who was a seamstress or a quilter or something, maybe a quilter. So our main character goes back to her hometown because her father has passed away. And so in her conversations with her siblings, she is confronted with some accusations from her sister that their mother was abusive to her as a child. Well, her mother had always accused her sister of being the problem child and everything. So she really doesn't know who to believe. And there's just a lot of stuff that takes place in this book and a lot of back and forth. You really don't know as a reader who to believe until the very end. And I just thought that it was really good. This one is called Range of Motion. This one also was pretty good. This is about a woman whose husband was kind of in a freak accident and ends up in a coma. And it's what she does and everything she's working through while he's in a coma because she doesn't know if he's going to live or die. And it's all the things she has to deal with and the people she meets, like in the hospital, and the people that are her neighbors and all things like that. So I thought it was very interesting. I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but I enjoyed this one. I thought it was pretty good. The next one on my list is The Year of Pleasures. I did rate the next few 3 stars, but I think of the 3-star books, I probably enjoyed this one as much as any of them, if not more. So I put it next on the stack. This is about a woman who is recently widowed, and it's what she does in her next year of life, how she sort of reinvents herself. Her husband had not wanted her to grieve for long. He wanted her to just sell the house and move on with her life. And even though she gets some flack from other neighbors and other people, thinking that she's doing this too soon after he died, she's like, no, this is what he would have wanted, and I know what I'm doing. It does do a little bit of backstory with her and her husband together and the discussions they had and things like that in planning for his death. And I also enjoyed this one. There were a few things I didn't love about it, but still overall not too bad. This one is called We Are All Welcome Here. It's actually set in 1964, the year I was born, and it's inspired by a true story of a woman who had polio and lived her life, most of her life, in an iron lung. And there's an author's note at the beginning that says it is entirely fictionalized except for just a couple of tiny little things. It was inspired by this woman. And so it is about a woman in an iron lung who has had polio, and it is from her daughter's perspective. I think the title comes from the fact that there was a lot of discrimination because this woman was able to put on a portable iron lung, and she rarely went anywhere, but she could go places, but she was discriminated against. She tried to go to a restaurant on an outing, and people were just looking at her like, we don't think you should come here. And I just thought, what a ridiculous thing for people to think. I guess it made them uncomfortable, but wow, I am thankful that in this day and age, we don't have discrimination like that for people with health issues. I just thought it was ridiculous. But anyway, I didn't really like the mother. You want to have sympathy for her, but she is just kind of a tough, which I guess she needed to be, but I don't know, I didn't always like her attitude about things. But anyway, it wasn't bad. It was interesting, and it made me look up, it made me do a little more research and look up, of iron lungs and what that was like. Now, I already knew a little bit about what a full iron lung looked like because I've seen photos. There was a woman who lived 10 miles away in the nearest town over from the town where I grew up, and she painted with her teeth, and she lived her whole life in a full iron lung. I don't think she was ever able to to put on anything portable, but I did see pictures online of what this portable iron lung looks like that you could, put on in order to sit up and be able to get around and go places and things like that. And it was really fascinating. So that part of it was really interesting. I just didn't love the characters in this book. I almost wish that Elizabeth Berg would have just done a story about the real woman and her life. But she says in the author's notes that when this woman approached her to do her mother's story, she said, well, I only write fiction. The only way I'll do it is if I can completely fictionalize it. So, I think I would have rather just had the real story, but, I'm not the author, so she did what she did, and this is the result. This one I didn't love, but it was okay. It's called The Pull of the Moon. I still rated it 3 stars. This is about a woman, I believe, who's going through menopause and just kind of has a midlife crisis. And it's kind of epistolary. She writes notes and makes, I think she makes a few phone calls back to her husband, but she leaves him a note saying that she's just going away for a while. She just kind of does a road trip and meets various people along the way and just kind of comes to terms with her life and going through menopause and everything like that. I've been through menopause. It didn't make me freak out and go on a road trip, but I have been on road trips by myself and with my daughter. So maybe she was just feeling trapped and felt like she needed to do that. And so the reasons I did it were to actually go to events, but I enjoyed it while I was out. It is fun to travel by myself or just with my daughter because we can kind of, do what we want to do without really having to take anybody else into consideration. So for that reason, I think it's neat to travel alone, but still the reasons that she had were valid, I guess, but I think it went a little over the top. This one I was not a fan of, but I would have liked it more if it hadn't had so much foul language. This is called Say When, and it's about a couple who are separated and everything that they work through and all their communications and the things that they are dealing with and all of that. I would have had a lot more enjoyment out of the book, but they were just so ugly to each other with the foul language and everything that really bothered me. And then the one I like the least, but has one of the most beautiful covers, is Tapestry of Fortunes. This started out with a woman, I think, pulling out some tarot cards or something. In fact, that's one of the things that really did kind of bother me a lot about Elizabeth Berg's books, because I prefer to read Christian literature and books that are more clean. And Elizabeth Berg writes definitely from a worldview. I doubt that she is a Christian or anything, because a lot of her characters will say statements like, if there is a God, or this kind of thing, and a lot of times they consult kind of these spiritualist kind of things. They'll read tarot cards or some kind of a spiritualism, other than God. And so I caught myself thinking, these characters, they just need Jesus. Jesus would solve their problems. I'm not to say that a Christian is always happy. We certainly have our problems, but at least we know where to go for solutions. And so none of these characters in these books had Jesus to go to. And so that, to me, made it more depressing, because I just, even though they're fictional characters, I just wanted that for them. I wanted them to have happy endings. And to me, unless you have Jesus in your heart, it's going to be really hard to have a happy ending. There's my little sermon for the video, but that was just really, my impression of Elizabeth Berg literature as a whole. So the premise of this one is not bad. It's about a woman who is grieving the loss of her best friend. She's actually a motivational speaker, but she sells her home and makes a new start in another town. She finds a place to rent, like a boarding house, and she ends up making friends with all the people there, and they go on adventures and things. Really, the main reason I just didn't like it was because of the spiritualism part of it. It was definitely not Christian-based or faith-based. And there was just, there's foul language in most of her books, except for the Katie Nash books. There might have been a little bit in those books. But I just, this one just didn't appeal to me at all. It wasn't my type of book. So those are the books that I have read by Elizabeth Berg, and the ones that I own, and the ones I still need to read before my challenge is done. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. If you completely disagree and you absolutely love her books, I want to hear from you. Let me know which ones you love the best and why you love them. I think that's great. We all have different tastes and we all have different preferences. So let me know in the comments if any of these sound interesting to you that you might want to read in the future as well. So that's all for this video. I will be back soon with my full August wrap up. And I will show these again, but I'm not going to talk about them at that point because I'm going to need to kind of zip through that video as fast as I can. But for now, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.